Welcome back to another episode with Fight Pass with Mitch, presented by Notorious Pulls Radio. And this week's event, we have an awesome UFC fight night at the Spectrum Center in North Carolina. For this event, we have an amazing heavyweight match with Rozenstruik versus Jailton Almeida. So before we get into it, guys, remember, if you are new to our show and to our episodes, please leave a like, follow, and subscribe on all our platforms. Now let's get into it. UFC Fight Night. Rozenstruik versus Jailton Almeida. These two heavyweights are no strangers to violence. Rozenstruik, the number 9 ranked heavyweight in the UFC, 13-4, had a beautiful KO win his last fight against Chris Daukaus. Coming into the UFC, Rozenstruik has a phenomenal kickboxing background, and that no one has any doubt about. But he has not been able to put on a big string of wins in the UFC. He obviously, got viciously taken out by Francis Ngannou, had a great win against Junior Dos Santos, lost to Cyril Gane, had a great win against Augusto Sakai, lost to Curtis Blades, lost to Alexander Volkov. So when it comes to the top 5, even he's just has not had the pieces, what it takes to bang with the absolute best in the division. So I can never actually see him wearing the UFC gold as a heavyweight. His opponent, Jailton Almeida, 18-2, has been on an absolute tear in the UFC heavyweight. His last win was against Shamil Abudurakhimov. He had a great win against Alton Turkalaj. He beat Parker Porter. He beat Danilo Marquez. And he had a beautiful Dana White's Contender Series debut. He is an absolute star in the making. He's actually one of the smaller heavyweights in the division, but his power, his speed, and his technique are absolutely spot on. He has all the tools in his arsenal to be one of the most insane heavyweights in the UFC division. The UFC is dying for more stars. We're so tired of the same 5-6 guys just kind of scrambling and fighting each other and being just shuffled around. It's getting a little bit old. It's nice to see new faces challenging and cracking into the top 10 of the UFC heavyweight division. That's why I'm happy John Jones left the light heavyweight division and is in the heavyweight division, because now it's bringing new stardom, new power, a little bit new life to the division, which feels a little bit stagnant, one of the hardest divisions to acquire top talent in a sense. As you know, there is absolutely no way do I believe in my right mind that Rozenstruik will be beating Almeida. Almeida is going to run circles around him. He is going to outwork him. He is going to bring him to the ground, and he's going to beat the living crap out of Rozenstruik. That is not even a concern out of my mind. That's how much I believe in Almeida and in his skills. This is a key matchup. It's at 3 p.m. The main event is starting, and this is a free fight. This is not pay-per-view. It's only on ESPN Plus, and you cannot miss this, ladies and gentlemen. The co-main event is another great matchup. What I love about this matchup, it's two guys who are very hungry, who essentially are not going to be fighting for UFC gold, but that doesn't mean that they're not very dangerous light heavyweights. And that's an Anthony Lionheart Smith going against Johnny Walker. Anthony Smith, as you know, is an insane veteran in the UFC. 36-17 record. His last fight, he lost to Magomedov Ankalaev. He had a beautiful win against Ryan Spann. He had a great win against Jimmy Crute, against Devin Clark. He lost to Alexander Rakic. He obviously lost to the former light heavyweight champion Glover Teixeira. So when it comes to experience, Anthony Smith lacks none of it. As you know, Johnny Walker, a showman in the UFC, huge 6'4" light heavyweight, fighting out of Ireland in the same gym that Conor McGregor would coach Kavanga, has actually put a nice little string of wins against Paul Craig and Ian Cutelaba. As you know, he got viciously knocked out by the current light heavyweight champion Jamal Hill, had a loss to Thiago Santos, and what they equally share, both Johnny Walker and Anthony Smith, is they both beat Ryan Spann, who is also a great contender in the light heavyweight division. I do believe when it comes to fights, styles make fights, but also experience plays a great role when it comes to fighting. I believe that Anthony Smith has seen the who's who, and he is one of the toughest fighters I've seen. That fight that he had against Glover Teixeira, when I thought that Glover was going to knock out every single tooth from his mouth, he did not quit. He is no Luke Rockhold, where he catches one punch from Mike Perry, chips his tooth, and hangs on the rope and straight up quits. He is a tough motherfucker. He is going to be in Johnny Walker's face the whole time. The key to his success is to get Johnny Walker out of that first round. Walker, as you know, is that type of fighter. He is very explosive, and the hardest thing about him is literally just getting out of that first round from Johnny Walker. After that, I do believe it's a different fighter, and it's with his large build, and he carries a lot of muscle with him, that fatigue and that lactic acid buildup catches up to him, and that's when Anthony Smith will able to start breaking him down and start to bring a lot of punishment. So for that Saturday night, I'm going to have to rock with Lionheart, the veteran, the more experienced fighter in the division. The next fight that we're going to be talking about is a welterweight matchup against two great welterweights. And the first one I'm going to introduce is a top 15 fighter, and that is Daniel Rodriguez. He's 17-3, and he's going against the undefeated Ian Gary. Ian Gary, an undefeated fighter who's on a 4-fight win streak in the UFC. His last win was against Song Keenan when he put up an absolute clinic in the octagon. His striking looked absolutely impressive. Every punch, with all his amazing combinations, were landing, were hurting Keenan. It was an absolute amazing fight to watch, and I am really happy that he's actually getting to fight to possibly break himself into the top 15. As you know, Daniel Rodriguez, D-Rod, is no slouch. He has that Cali gangster vibe to him. He's a heavy pothead smoker, but you cannot be fooled by that. He's an absolute dog in that octagon. His last fight, he lost to Neil Magny, which is a little bit too much of a step up in competition for him because Magny is a very crafty veteran who has faced much greater competition than Daniel Rodriguez. But Daniel Rodriguez has also a very well resume on his record with wins against Li Jingeling, Kevin Lee, Preston Parsons, and as you know now, the star-studded BKFC fighter, and that is Mike Perry. So when it came to watching Mike Perry versus D-Rod, as you saw, D-Rod was able to completely dismantle Mike Perry in the octagon. Mike Perry right now is having a flourishing, blossoming career in BKFC, and his amazing performance against Luke Rockhold, it just shows why Mike Perry might be the one who possibly can face Conor McGregor in his BKFC debut one day, possibly. The opening fight in this UFC's main event is with two veterans, and that is against Tim Dirty Bird Means versus Alex Morono. Tim Means, 32-14, has faced everyone in the welterweight division. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. Unfortunately, he lost his last fight to Max Griffin. He obviously lost to Big Mouth, aka Kevin Holland, and he was on a 3-fight win streak prior to that. Alex Morono is a guy that every time I think that he might lose, he somehow pulls out that Hail Mary win. Unfortunately, his last fight, that Hail Mary never came, and he was knocked out by Santiago Ponzinibbio. Prior to that, he was on a 4-fight win streak against Smelsberger. He beat Mickey Gall. He beat David Zawada, and he had an incredible win against Donald Cowboy Cerrone, who's currently retired and going to be entering the Hall of Fame. As you know, for this fight and this matchup, I'm just going to have to rock with Alex Morono. I believe he's the younger fighter. He's the fresher fighter. He's a fighter who's taken significantly less damage over his career and a record of 22-8, fighting out of Texas, Houston, Texas. There's no doubt about my money would be with Alex Morono. I just believe he's going to be the guy who gets his hand raised that night, and I think this is a great fight for the opening night of that main event. Guys, as you know, if you want to support us fully, we have some of the best merchandise in town at notoriouspulls.com. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe us on all platforms. And we cannot wait to see this card in North Carolina at the Spectrum Center. Remember, this is your host, Mitchell, with Fight Pass with Mitch. We'll see you soon, and enjoy Saturday night. Thank you.